the little robot voice there, about highfalutin things, that it's very practical day to day, but at the same time, it's actually pretty important and quite powerfully transformative. So just wanted to, there's a story in the book, in The Heroic Heart, which you've told a number of times in other places, about the value of lojong, and that's about the previous Kamto Rinpoche and the Togdens. Do you know the story I'm talking about? Would you mind telling us that story, just so we get a sense of the importance of lojong and where it sits in the whole Dharma path for those of us on the Vajrayana path?
So our monastery is called Kampaga, and a special quality of Kampaga, apart from its monks, that they have a group of monks called togden, or realized ones, who are monks, but they're also yogis, and they devote all their life to a practice. In Tibet, they lived up in caves. And so they are really considered very, very special, and something their understanding is considered to be very, very profound. I mean, even the Karmapa said, even in Tibet, you didn't come across Togdens like the Kampaga Togdens. And so one time, Rinpoche, Kamto Rinpoche, he said to the Togdens, look, I have a very special teaching which I have to give to you. So you please come tomorrow and I will impart it. So then, of course, the Togdens were wondering what on earth could be this special teaching that he's going to give, some very high Dzogchen Terma or something, you know, because they already were very advanced yogis. What more could he possibly have to give them? And then, so the next day they went, and what he was teaching was the 7-point mind training of Chikawa Yeshidoji. This is one of the main teachings on lojong, which it has been passed down since the 14th century. So to him, this was the pinnacle of the teaching that he could give them, and that he really wanted to impart heart from heart, was this teaching on lojong. So when Rinpoche didn't really give much teaching, he was very quiet. But the only time I really saw him so excited he could hardly talk fast enough was when he was talking on bodhicitta and lojong. Then he really, really got excited. I mean, just completely, you could feel this was totally coming from the heart. So yes, lojong, although it is so practical and so useful and everybody can use it, doesn't mean that it's therefore not profound and extremely transformative for the mind.
Thank you, Jetsma. So most of us here know that Kamto Rinpoche was your guru. I just wondered if you could tell us your most favorite, most cherished memory of Kamto Rinpoche.
You know, when you wrote that, I thought, well, what do I think when I think Kamto Rinpoche? And actually, all I thought was him. He was an artist and a poet, as well as a great Lama. And I remember him just sitting and drawing. He was drawing a series of episodes from the life of Sakya Pandita. And so I just sat down beside him and leaned onto his left arm because he was drawing with his right arm. And he was telling me the story that he was drawing and explaining it. And it was just so nice, so peaceful, so quiet, so intimate to have the opportunities to be with Rinpoche in this most favorable mode for him, which was that he loved to draw and paint. And so that's what comes to my mind. It's just sitting there quietly with him, and he had a very soft voice, and he was explaining from the life of Sakya Pandita.
Thanks.
Nothing dramatic, something just very, very simple, but it is still in my heart.
Yeah, I mean, many of the things that I remember about teachers who've had an impression on me are often very simple. For example, holistic psychiatrism, I was lucky enough to be in a room where he was giving teachings when he was in Australia a long time ago. And just the presence, the physical presence, quietens the mind. I really found that very interesting because I've got quite a wild mind. So I really found that very interesting, that just to be in the presence of beings like Holistic Lama, Holistic Psychiatrism, these quite realized beings, it just quietens the mind, and you just feel quite content. There's a kind of contentness there. Very interesting to me. So I want to go back to lojong again, if we can. And one of the things about the lojong slogans is that they help us bring awareness to and mindfulness to daily life. So as you were mentioning before, Jetsima, it's about using everyday life, bringing it onto the path to transform the mind. Can you give an example of how we might use those lojong slogans, one or a number or all, to improve our ability to remain in the present?
Well, I mean, for example, there are many texts on lojong, which were not only by Palmo Duddul himself, but later lineage masters in that Kadampa line. And one of the most favored is the 8 verses of lojong. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, for example, says that every day he recites this as part of his practice, because that is also dealing with many things, including, not putting yourself as the most important and putting others first. And if people are being very difficult to you, appreciating the fact they're being difficult so that we can practice these qualities of patience and forbearance and so forth. And in other words, taking difficult situations and completely reversing them. Because the mind training doesn't mean just mind intellectually, it means our attitude towards life and our responses, especially when things are difficult, people are difficult, and, things don't go the way I want them to go. They go the way they're going to go. And how to deal with those our natural responses skillfully, so that we take all these difficult situations and use them to enhance our own practice and feel grateful instead of feeling resentful. And so this is really very, very important. I mean, these verses are, their meaning, their actual meaning is quite easy to understand, but to put into practice is something else quite different. And so therefore we need to practice, and really, like anything, if you learn an instrument, you need to also challenge yourself by learning the difficult pieces, not just by learning always the easy pieces. And so I think if we read the lojong text, and then there are certain verses in that which stand out for us as especially meaningful, particularly if we know that that's the one we always fall flat down on our face with, then to memorize that and to recite that to ourselves as a reminder of what a bodhisattva would do. I mean, these are practices for 8th level bodhisattvas. We are not 8th level bodhisattvas, let's not kid ourselves. But how are we ever going to improve if we're not challenged? And so these verses remind us of how someone who really saw things as they really are would naturally practice. And so we gradually begin to bring our life into conformity with our ideal. And these verses are the ideal. So they're very helpful. And as I say, the outer meaning is very simple, very easy to understand. Nobody can, doesn't get your head into a knot. We know that's true. Oh, yes, right, quite right. But then, when things come up, how are we responding? This is the question. So therefore, these lojong texts are very useful to read them over and over again and to really think about them and to use our life to implement them, because that's what it's meant for. It's for our life, not just to sit down and think nice thoughts. But then when we are faced with these challenges of loss, ill health, difficult people, difficult circumstances, that we try our very best to bring ourselves into conformity with the texts.
Thanks, Jessica. I'll just ask everyone to just turn your cameras off and mute your microphones, if you don't mind, please, so we don't have that noise in the background. That was great, Jessica. I really liked that you brought to bear the idea of gratitude, because I think sometimes, I know for myself, I get very irritated by certain things, and it's very easy in the moment to just get swept up with the irritation. But if we know those lojong slogans, we can bring them to mind. And I think just bringing them to mind gives us a moment. And in that moment, we can go, okay, here's an opportunity to practice. I think that's great. Because I think one of the things that's often been hard for me, because I have a very, you can probably tell by the pace at which I talk, very rapid fire mind. And so for me, it's using the slogans to get that little time, just a little tiny bit of space. So I can go, okay, I'm not going to react here. I'm just going to sit with it, be with it. So I think that's great. So I want to now, if it's okay, talk about my favorite of the 37 verses of Togme Sangpo. I'll just read it out, if that's okay. And if I could then ask you a question about it. So the verse is, close friends who have long been together will separate. Wealth and possessions gained with much effort will be left behind. Consciousness, a guest, will leave the hotel of the body. To give up the concerns of this life is the practice of a bodhisattva. So obviously that's about impermanence. And I just wanted to know if you had any tips about how to bring impermanence, how to take impermanence to heart, either in the verses themselves or just in general, how we can become more attuned to the reality of impermanence.
Well, of course, impermanence is one of the 3 signs of existence, according to the Buddha, unsatisfactoriness, impermanence, and non-self. So it's extraordinarily important, because we, as the Buddha said, the one thing certain about life is death. And so many people are in denial. We believe, I think the problem for many people is that we believe our happiness depends on security. But there's no security in samsara. Everything is changing moment to moment to moment. We are changing, other people are changing, external factors are changing. Everything is moving. It's a movement. It's not a static, solid fact. And as long as we deny that, as long as we are in denial and we are always seeking for security in other people, in possessions, in our own self, then there is going to be fear and anxiety, because we know actually nothing is static, even though we want to believe it is. Everything is permanent. Nothing is permanent. To my mind, the only security is in insecurity. If we accept the fact that everything is changing moment to moment, and there is going to be loss, there is going to be changing, there is going to be differences, there's going to be impermanence, and finally there's going to be death for ourselves and for others, then we can be at ease within that, because we accept it. Acceptance is the thing. If we are in denial, then we are always going to be insecure. We are always going to feel very, very threatened, because anxious, well, all right today, but tomorrow, but tomorrow will take care of itself if we take care of today. And so impermanence is very, very important. To accept it and go with the flow, as they say, is the point. Then when things do fall apart, we don't fall apart. right? Because we have, the whole point of meditation is really to come back to the essential level of our awareness, which is beyond impermanence or permanence, right? And so on a deeper level, that's the point, to come to the unborn, the deathless. And if we can do that, then all the external changes won't affect us. But in the meantime, even if we are not there yet, we can still accept that everything is impermanent, including ourselves and others, and that all meetings end in parting, and that all gains end in loss. And the only thing which we take with us into our next life will be our consciousness. And how much attention have we given to that? So we try to make ourselves externally comfortable, but in the end, all of that leaves. As they said, you know, the consciousness is like a guest in a guest house. It has to leave, pay your bill and go. But that's not bad. That's not bad, because if we can accept that, then there's no fear, right? As long as we grasp and cling, as the Buddha said, the cause of our suffering is our clinging mind. And the more we cling, the more we will suffer. Even though we think the more we cling, the safer we will be and the happier we will be. But it's not true. And to hold things gently and lightly and allow them to move, then that attitude of mind goes beyond hope and fear. That's why impermanence is very important. An acceptance of impermanence, recognizing it's not a bad thing, it's just what is.
Yeah, thanks, Jetsma. And also the thing that I always really appreciate about impermanence is it means that I can change. Because if there was no impermanence, I'd be stuck. There'd be no liberation.
Well, exactly. And change is a good thing as well as a bad thing. I mean, people think change is something bad, but it's not. Thank goodness we can change.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be no point in lojong.
Yeah. Great. That was really great. So I want to just ask you quickly, this is a big question, a really big question, but I think it's worth asking. And obviously, everything we've been talking about so far is covered in detail in the Heroic Heart. So likewise this. So I just wanted to know, in your experience, your extensive experience of, you know, a lifetime of practice and as an enunciate, what do you think is the simplest and most effective daily practice? You know, we always want the simplest that we can use to undermine the three poisons: ignorance, attachment, and aversion. And even if there's one that's not so simple or easy, that's great too.
You know, I mean, honestly and truthfully, in order to help us to become the masters of our mind instead of the slaves of our mind, especially slaves of our negative emotions, like our greed and anger and so forth, we really, really need to become more aware of what's going on inside us. I mean, there's no way of getting around it. You know, we really, really, really have to become more aware of our underlying motivations, so that we can recognize the negative emotions when they arise. You know, because if at the moment of feeling anger, we think anger, then, as you said, you know, you can pause. As Shantideva says, you know, if you can't deal with it, at least you can become like a log. And in a log of wood, okay, you don't react, and then maybe one of these nice lojong verses comes into your mind, and that already has broken the momentum, right? That's the point. The thing is to cut through the momentum. Otherwise, we're swept away by our anger, swept away by our greed or jealousy or whatever, because we're not even conscious. That's what we're feeling, right? So really, the simplest practice has to be, as Atisha said, as the Buddha said, as Milarepa said, Guru Rinpoche said, everybody says, the essence of practice is to observe the mind. because that's where it all starts from, isn't it? You know, from our mind. And if we don't even know what's going on in our mind while it's going on, then we're slaves to whatever comes up. And that then, you know, comes into our speech, into our actions, affects ourselves, affects others, creates karma. And the whole cycle just keeps going round and round and round. So the thing is to become more and more conscious, moment to moment, as much as we can, of what's actually going on inside us. Not even judging it, just knowing it, because the knowing it alone can prevent us from getting swept away and lost in our
He's there, somebody.
Are you still with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we're still here.
Sorry,
Yes.
we keep losing you.
There's a brief pause.
Anyway, so that's the point. You know, the point is, lojong is saying we blame outside circumstances for our problems. We blame other people because we get angry. We blame other people because we feel lustful or greedy. But actually, the problem is not that out there. Problem is us and our responses. You know, I mean, it all depends on us. Something which makes one person angry, another person will just laugh at, right? It's not the thing happening out there. It's how we deal with what is happening out there. This is where lojong is so important, because it's so practical in giving advice on how to deal with these really difficult outer circumstances, how to create an inner space so that we have the opportunity to change our ordinary responses to something which is positive instead of being negative. And we could spend all day doing that. You know, it's not just something you do when you're sitting in practice. Yes, that helps us to get focused. But then the rest of the day is our practice, right? Other people, other circumstances, everything which happens, the news, the media, everything. How are we dealing with that, skillfully or unskillfully?
Thank you, Jetsima. I want to take a step back again to what you said at the beginning of that answer, which was about to observe the mind. So for me, that looks like there's two kind of quite fundamental things that are really essential. Watching the mind, which is meditation, obviously, and then taming the behavior as well through the slogans, which also tames the mind. So in your experience, are we talking just simple shamatha, or, you know, anything fancy there in terms of watching the mind?
I would say no. I would say shamatha is very, very important. A very high Lama one time said to me, if you have good shamatha, then the rest of the Dharma is in the palm of your hands. And here we're talking about shamatha in the sense of being able to observe the mind and the awareness of the thoughts, and then the awareness of the awareness, which is very, very important, that we don't just only notice the thoughts and the emotions, but that we are able to see that space there between the thoughts and the emotions, and then that ability to know that, the awareness, right? And so therefore to sometimes just drop all the thoughts and just be aware of being aware. It's very important to create more open, spacious presence in the mind. It's the essence of all the practices, really, to really, really understand the mind and that which knows.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on in a minute. Just this excites me. So I want to talk about it a little bit more. So the awareness of awareness. So that's just looking to the gap. So in between the...
It's letting it going, just letting go. Because normally when we're aware, I mean, when we start out with shamatha, for example, you know, we're aware of the breath. Then we're aware of the thoughts, or we're aware of sensations. There's always a duality there of the observer and the observed, the subject and the object. So sometimes it's good just to drop the object and just be aware, like an eagle flying in the sky. You know, you think the eagle, it's not making any movement, it's just being kept up by the wave. But that eagle gliding through space is not asleep. That eagle is very, very focused, even if it's only focused on its lunch. And it is completely awake, but it is effortless in flying. It's not like a little bird which has to keep flapping up and down. It's just completely held up there. That's how the mind should be. Just open, spacious awareness, a sense of deep spaciousness and presence.
That's really beautiful. Thank you, Jetsma. So we'll move on, if that's okay with you. But just to sum that one up for everyone, watch the mind and do the slogans. I like that. And it couldn't be simpler, really. They asked for simple. You've given us simple. So I just want to change tack a little bit here. You've just come out of a month-long retreat, which I believe that you do each year around this time. I just want to ask you if you could, if it's okay, could you talk a little bit about what you find most beneficial about having a period of retreat each year? So that's the first part of the question. Like, what are the benefits to retreat, to solitude, to silence? And what those of us who are entangled in worldly life, jobs and care responsibilities and children, etc., what can we do to get some of those benefits of solitude and tranquility and silence?
Well, at this time, also all our nuns are in retreat. They do a 2-month retreat every year. And during that time, they keep silent. I mean, apart from any chanting and mantra recitation, they don't speak to each other. And so you imagine these younger women, you know, for 2 months, shutting up. And they take it very, very seriously. They really don't talk. They really don't. And the thing is, it's very helpful to have this opportunity just to step back from our ordinary lives and rest the mind for a while. You know, just allow the mind to absorb into its object of meditation, whatever it is, and you know, to just have that time to completely dedicate yourself completely just to practice without any external or very, very few external distractions, because our minds are naturally tending towards distraction. And so it's good to have an opportunity, a certain amount of time in which to really focus on being non-distracted. But, you know, I mean, also it's important to breathe in as well as to breathe out, right? Mostly we're breathing out, and that's why we get asphyxiated, because we're breathing out and out. We forget to breathe back in, right? We need to recharge our batteries. We do. So even if we don't have the opportunity to do extended retreats, maybe, you know, you're working or you have your family, you have many commitments, nonetheless, I really do think we could structure something in every day, you know, just getting up half an hour earlier than everybody else, or going to sleep half an hour after everybody else, so that you have this time every day in which is your time, only for yourself to do your practice, whatever your practice may be, can be very, very helpful, right? And then also, you know, all religions talk about having one day a week where you're not working, where you're silent, where you're giving your thoughts to the spiritual. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, they all have a certain day every week or, 2 or 3 times a month, where you're supposed to just completely drop everything else and give yourself up to relaxing physically and concentrating on something edifying, something spiritual at the same time. So I think that that's great wisdom, which we have lost. People now fill up Sundays with doing all sorts of external things again. And they're not just using it to be a time to go inwards. And that's what we need, is to have time to just be quiet and be inwardly contemplative. Why not? No reading newspapers, no looking at television, no playing around on the computer. Read spiritual literature, contemplate, go for walks in nature, and give yourself a rest. I think everybody needs that.
Thank you, Jetsima. I wanted to just, this is a question that's not on the list, but if it's okay, I'll ask it. So I want to ask about people who are not neurotypical. So people who are on the autism spectrum, or people who have like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, things like that. For them, sitting still and being quiet is really very hard. So, and meditation even is quite hard. So I just want to know, just quickly, if we could just, I'm sorry for springing this on you, but it just came to my mind then, that many of us really benefit from solitude and quiet, but people who are not neurotypical, like whose brains are actually wired differently, they find it very difficult to settle and be quiet. And if there was sort of an alternative route that they might be able to apply.
Well, maybe they could listen to Dharma talks.
Yeah.
Right? At least they're listening to something worthwhile, which is going into their brain, instead of the usual, stupid nonsense which is put out by the media. They could do something meaningful, listen to a Dharma talk. Or if they need to be active, then do some, prostrations, or go for walks in nature. As I say, nature is very healing for the mind. Go off and find a good tree and give it a big hug. There's all sorts of things you can do which are positive, right? You don't have to sit the whole day in meditation, but do positive actions and have positive input into the brain. That's the important thing.
Yeah, I often think people who can't sit still, who fidget a lot, who are neurodivergent, that the prayer wheel is like a wonderful thing. Just
frustrations.
Yeah, all kinds of things are there. Okay, Thank you very much. So I want to ask you, this is also kind of a big question, which was on the list, so it's not a surprise. I just want to ask you about the togdenmas. So those who know you know that one of the really very important and significant things that you've done is begin to re-establish the togdenma tradition. It's something that many of us are very excited about, and obviously because they're in retreat for long periods of time, there's not a lot of information coming out regularly. So just like, if you could just talk a little bit about how that's going, what will the togdenmas do when they're cooked, when they're finished, and where they're at what point will they be given the title of togdenma, how will that happen? So it's just wondering how that's all going and when we can get excited about them coming out.
Okay, so many years ago, at one time my Lama Kamsa Rinpoche, he put a silk scarf, a silk kata, which in those days was very unusual, around my neck. And he said that in Tibet we had many female togdenma, but now this tradition has been broken. And so I always pray that you will re-establish this very precious feminine lineage. So when then I was asked to start this nunnery, one of my main motivations was to create the space in which we could promote the training of certain nuns in order to become yoginis or togdenma. Fortunately, a number of the nuns were very keen. They wanted very much to dedicate themselves to lifelong retreat. And so we now have 12 nuns. Several of them have finished 13 years of retreat already. They are being trained by the senior togdens from our monastery of Kampaga in Tashijong. And they're doing really well. I mean, just recently, many of them came out. They come out every 3 years. After 3 years, 3 months, they come out for a short time, for a few weeks, just to see their friends and get medical checkups and just see the world a bit. Now they've all gone back. And some other nuns who are now finishing their philosophical training and about to do 2 years of Tantra, they say after that, then they would like to go into retreat. Some nuns are just in a 3-year retreat, but the majority of them are doing lifelong retreat. So they're doing very well. We were just talking about them, and I was saying that considering there's so few of them and they only see each other, they don't see anybody else except for myself, how well in all these years they're still friendly with each other. I mean, they never get diluted by meeting other people, and they're all together. But they're still very cheerful and friendly with each other, and there doesn't seem to be any problems there. They're still very enthusiastic for the practice. In the Kampaga tradition, you remain as a practitioner until the word tokden means to be have realization, to be a realized one. And so it's not enough just to recognize the primordial nature of the mind and get glimpses. It has to be stabilized. You have to be in a state of rikpa, at least as often as you want to be. And so that takes time. And that's why I compare it to cooking, that when you make a cake, you put the cake in the oven, in a hot oven, and close the door, and the cake quite quickly rises. And then you think, oh, look, the cake's baked, and you take it out, but it's not baked, and it just completely deflates again, and there's this horrible soggy mess, and worse off than it started. So these are people who get some kind of glimpse and some kind of understanding, think they're realized, and that they're now gurus. And that creates more problems than people who recognize they're nowhere. So what they do is they keep it in the oven and they keep the door closed, and they just keep it there until that cake is baked all the way through. When it is completely cooked all the way through, then you can take it out of the oven. It will keep its shape, and you can cut it and eat it. It will be very nourishing and delicious. But until that time, keep it in the oven. So usually that takes about 18 to 20 years. And so at that time, when they feel that the realization is stabilized, then they are given the white skirt, the white robe of a yogi. Until then, they wear just monastic robes, the maroon robes. And so our nuns have now done finished 13 years, and I don't know how much longer they have to do. There's no time limit. It's a matter of your inner experience and realization. When the teacher feels you're ready, then you will be called togdenma. Until then, they're just nuns in retreat. So that's how it is, you know. But already the nuns often go to, when they're out, go to the senior of our retreat nuns for teachings and explanations on practice and so forth. So they're already teaching, and they teach each other. The senior nuns help with the new ones coming in, and they're already, you know, helping out. In the future, we don't know what they will do, but at the moment, they're all very happy just practicing. And we're very, very grateful to the Togdens of Kampaga for helping them and being there to train them properly.
I think we're all grateful for that. And we're all grateful that you're there, Jetsma, because without you, it wouldn't have happened. And I think around the world, there's a very strong wish for that to happen, and a huge gratitude that that is happening. I think it's one of the things that I'm really excited about. And I like the idea that they might not ever come out. I think that I'm quite jealous of that. Quite jealous of that. All right, so I want to close now talking about the book again. There was one other question. Is there anything that you found in your experience over many years that's the most important thing to sustaining enthusiasm for practice, particularly if you've been doing it a long time? Any tips?
Honestly and truthfully, Pamela, I think the fact is that the Buddha Dharma is really the most clear and profound spiritual path that exists. On all levels, it is truly extraordinary. Sometimes the practitioners might fall down, but the Dharma itself is exemplary. There's nothing like it anywhere better than that. That's as good as it gets. And if we don't make the most of this opportunity now at this time, then in the future, in future lives, in future this life, who knows what the circumstances will be? That how do we know what conditions we are going to meet with in the future? Right now, it's all here. The causes and the conditions are here. The Buddha Dharma is here. The teaching is here. The teachers are here. Don't waste time.
Thank you, Jetsma. Just ask if we could just turn our computers and stuff off. Sorry, I'm feeling a little bit choked up by that. So I'll just take a second. Okay, so back to the book. What do you hope the book to do in the world? Because now the book is out in the world, it will do its own thing. And people want relationships with the book and the teachings in the book. And I'm just wondering if what you hope the book will bring to those who read it or encounter it, or if you hope anything at all.
Well, I hope it will inspire people to practice. That's the main thing. My way of teaching and talking and writing is very, very simple. Everybody can understand it. You don't have to be an advanced philosopher or practitioner to understand what I'm talking about. It's very, very simple. And the text itself is very beautiful. And Tomi Sangpo expressed things very, very beautifully. And so my commentary on his words, really, you don't even really need a commentary because his words are so transparent. But I hope that anybody who picks up the book will take something from it which will benefit them in their lives and make certain difficulties which they are encountering easier, show them a light on a path, especially if the path is a bit dark and obscured, that they can see that there's a way through. And that's really all I hope for it. Lojong, it's very good that nowadays more and more books on Lojong are being published. Previously, it was all, sort of ultimate yoga tantras and Madhyamika and Dzogchen. Now people are saying, yeah, we've got all that. Yeah, right, lovely. Now, how do I deal with my difficult, neighbor or my unsympathetic boss? And so then they come back and they say, wow, that's dealing with me and my life. How I am right now is giving me advice on how ordinary little me can actually use the Dharma in my daily life with my difficulties and my problems and my anxieties, and use that to walk the path. And I think this is the real beauty of lojong. However high you are, like as I say, comes from Rinpoche teaching the togdens. He thought it was the most important thing they should ever learn. And ordinary people who don't know anything about Dharma, also they can benefit enormously from it. You don't have to be Buddhist. It's about how to be a genuine human being. And I think it's an extraordinary lineage for everybody. I mean, it's certainly not just for Tibetan Buddhists, it's for all Buddhists and all people everywhere. If we could only keep some of these verses in our heart, this would be a totally different world.
Great. Thank you, Jetsama. So the book comes out on August the 16th, which is an exciting day. I think that there's pre-orders for both the digital version and the print version, but the audiobook, I'm not sure if the pre-orders are out. For those of you who read Tricycle magazine, an excerpt of the book will be in Tricycle magazine. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but just keep an eye on that. And it has already been translated into Portuguese and Spanish, I think, and maybe one other language. So it'll be available in multiple languages. So I just want to say thank you very much, Jetsama, for your time, particularly on your first day out of retreat. I mean, what an awful thing we've done to you. Straight out, get you talking to us and answer questions. But, you know, I, for one, and I think everyone here, we really appreciate your time and your wisdom. And obviously, we wish that you remain for many more years to turn the wheel of Dharma and help us to be free, because we would like to be free. That's important to us. And you and others are our only hope, really. The teachers are our only hope. So thank you very much for your time. People haven't really popped questions in the chat, so if you want to just talk for a few minutes, or we could just wind it up here, that's okay. I think we're done. I think we've had a conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I should say to everybody that Pema himself has been very helpful with getting this book into production. He edited it for us and did all the correspondence between ourselves and Shambhala, and he's the one that's been pushing it all ahead. So I do hope they send you a copy. If not, we will.
I think they did. But it's they sent it to my work address, so I have to go. I work mostly from home, so I'll go get it. But I mean, the thing is, for me, it was wonderful to read it, because I really like some. I mean, lojong is something that many of us who've been around for a little while have heard about, and we can become quite, you know, cup full. You know, things can't get in there anymore because we know about that. But I really like it when I read these things that I've had teaching on before, and I learned something new, and I learned many new things through that book. So I found it really useful and helpful. And I think in terms of before, we talk about the two basic things to overcome ignorance, attachment, and aversion, which is what this game's all about. You know, watch the mind, tame our behavior through lojong, tame the mind through lojong. I think, you know, and I think I can't remember where I was reading it, but I was reading somewhere that the foundation of Dzogchen, you know, that word, is shamatha, and taming the mind and taming our behavior. That's the foundation of that. So without that, none of that other stuff can happen. So I think it's super important. And I'm really pleased that this book has happened. Really excited to get my hands on it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your presence. We need right place, right teacher, right student. We make up the right student part. So without us, nothing would happen. So we're important in this game too. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. And there's other things happening for the Buddhist Winter School. If you have a ticket to this event, you are able to access all of those events for free, for no cost. So I hope you do look at that other stuff as well, the other sessions. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely night and a lovely weekend. Again, Jetsama, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We've got some people hanging around. Everyone. I hope that was okay. We had a little bit of trouble with the waiting room. It was a bit slow to let people in, I noticed. So, but it's been recorded so people can access the recording afterwards. Thank you, everybody. I hope you all attend the rest of the weekend or parts thereof. You're all very welcome.
Thank you very, very much. Night night.
No.
Thank you, Pema. Thank you, Pema. Much love to all participants. Big thanks to Jetson. Stay safe, stay well.
Thank you.
Watch your mind.
Encourage each other to be so hard.